Welcome to Mamut Tutorials. In this tutorial, we will demonstrate the functionality available to register jute and freight invoices within Mamut business software. There are usually multiple types of costs associated with purchasing goods from a supplier. The most obvious cost is the cost per item agreed with the supplier, and the supplier may also levy a delivery charge on their invoice. If the goods are being supplied from overseas, a third-party logistics company will bring the goods into the country and charge you the legal taxes and duties which are due. Also, some businesses choose to include these expenses in the total landed goods value of their stock, while others choose not to. Mamut Business Software has functionality to support all of the above requirements. We start by selecting the Products and Warehouse focus area, and then open the product register by clicking on Product. With the Price tab selected, we can see a field called Expenses. Our duty and freight costs can be written to this field later in the tutorial. Next, we will look at some of the company settings which will be influential later in the process. To do this, we click on Company Settings and select the Price Processing tab. There are 4 significant settings which this tutorial would like to bring to your attention. Purchase costs, to include freight and forwarding from the supplier's invoice, means that the delivery charges from your original supplier will be posted into expenses. This setting is ticked as standard. Purchase costs, to include costs entered for freight and duty invoices, covers whether the delivery and duty charges from your logistics company are also included in expenses. This is not ticked as default, but we will tick it now so we can take the functionality into use. We also need to tick Update Purchase Price and Cost on Product Card when entering purchase, so that the expenses are posted to the Price tab. The final parameter to consider applies only if you have elected to hold the value of stock in hand on a balance sheet account. The parameter is called Basis for entering stock value in balance sheet is to include purchase costs. If this is ticked, then the asset value held on the balance sheet will also include any expense costs. In this tutorial, we wish to demonstrate this functionality too, so we tick this item as well. We click OK to close the settings screen, and then close the product register. Next, we click on the Purchases focus area on the left-hand side, and then we click Purchases Ordered to open an existing purchase order. The stock items on this purchase have not yet been received, so we click on the Receive button to bring them into stock. Next, we click on the Post-Purchase Invoice button to input the invoice from our supplier. The system defaults to an invoice type of supplier invoice, and this is correct for this posting. This invoice type is for the costs of the goods themselves, and there is no freight or duty, as this will be invoiced from a freight company. We enter an invoice number and click Invoice to post the supplier's invoice. Next, we click once more on the Post-Purchase Invoice button. This time we are inputting the invoice from the freight company, so we use the Invoice Type drop-down to select Duty Freight Invoice. We use the Supplier Number field to select our freight company. We then complete the invoice number field and change the invoice date if appropriate. We can use the fields in the lower section of the screen to input the breakdown of different expenses. In this tutorial, we will enter freight of £60 and duty of £30. We then click Invoice to post the invoice to the supplier ledger. Next, we close the purchase screen and return to the Price tab within the product register. We can see that our freight and duty costs, totaling £90 for 10 units, have been apportioned as £9 per unit to the expenses field, as per our earlier settings. Next, we close the product screen and move to the trial balance within the financial screen. Here we can see that our stock value is £1,090, made up of £1,000 purchase costs plus £90 expenses. We have now shown you how to configure Mamut Business Software so that the stock value is automatically maintained by the program and includes expense and duty items. Further tutorials are available on our website.